Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast show, powered by businessabc.net, citiesabc.com, and wisdomia.ai. We keep exciting times of profiling some of the top personalities in the world, and as well some of the top organizations. And one of the things I want more and more to do in this series is to, I would say, democratize the importance and as well the way we deal with technology, but as well the way we portray the people leading the technology and making this real. At the moment, as we speak, there's the AI revolution, but it's a fantastic, but as well a big journey. And I know that a lot of people listening to us are struggling to understand a lot of the topics, a lot of the concepts. And of course, when it comes to AI, we have, of course, a major revolution, disruption, and we can go for a lot of keywords. But the most important thing is it's happening and it's in everything we're doing. And who better to talk about that probably one of the biggest companies in the world at the moment as well, as we speak, probably between 1 and 3, it keeps shifting, but as well a company that is actually changing everything we do in terms of AI, the chips that are behind the AI, the LLM models, and a lot of different things. So today I'm quite excited to welcome to our series Erik Pounds, that is the Director of Product Marketing at NVIDIA Worldwide. Erik Pounds has an extensive career that spans various leadership roles across private and public companies, where he has been instrumental in driving product innovation and marketing strategies. His expertise lies in developing near-term operational plans and long-term business strategies, thought leadership, and the position and messaging of platforms, products, and technologies. At NVIDIA, Erik's part of the enterprise computing team, a segment focused on harnessing the power of AI to accelerate data analytics, machine learning, and deep learning. His team mission is to bring accelerated computing closer to the edge, ensuring that enterprises can fully leverage AI and data science in their operations. They provide developers with cutting-edge tools such as NVIDIA Merlin, Deep Recommender System, the NVIDIA Riva, formerly Jarvis, Conversational AI framework, and the open-source Rapids data science libraries. These resources, along with NGC containers, models, and Helm charts, enable customers to maximize NVIDIA's advancements in accelerated AI. Before his tenure at NVIDIA, Erik was the Vice President of Marketing at SwiftStack, a company recognized for his leadership in object and file storage. And during this time, he was responsible for all marketing functions. And SwiftStack was acquired by NVIDIA, and he came to NVIDIA through this venture. I'm quite excited to welcome to the series from his knowledge and from his down-to-earth approach towards technology and the way NVIDIA is leading product and marketing around the world. So I welcome to our series Erik Pounds, a personality of NVIDIA, and as well someone that I'm looking forward to speak that leads the marketing and product management. So Erik, welcome to our series.
Hey Dinis, thanks for having me. This is a great time to have this conversation, as you know, enterprises of all shapes and sizes across the globe are making big moves to adopt AI to power their applications, new levels of efficiency, and reach new levels of success. So it's great to be talking with you.
Thank you. So Erik, you have a fantastic background, and of course you have a big responsibility of directing products and marketing at NVIDIA, which is of course a lot of different things. And you have been as well very focused on data science and edge computing platforms. So a bit of your background, where you're coming, and how did you end up in this role?
Yeah, well, I've spent a majority of my career in the world of data, from helping businesses protect data, manage data, store data, utilize data, scale data globally. And I came to NVIDIA actually through an acquisition. I was working for a growing startup called SwiftStack. And we were a object storage and data management company. And we were working on a lot of projects around unstructured data, where large amounts of data were pooled together across global namespaces and then utilized by various applications. One of those applications was training AI models for autonomous vehicles. And NVIDIA was actively working on those projects with themselves, as well as with many large partners that you've probably seen and heard of. And NVIDIA realized that that the managing of data at that scale, at exabyte plus level scale, was was a big challenge. So I thought that would be good technology to have internally. So I came into to NVIDIA as a marketing leader of a data storage startup, which many think of, well, why would NVIDIA want a data storage product? But it was really about managing data at scale, to build, train, and run AI for new applications. And this product, by the way, this gets to a little bit of the culture of NVIDIA. Immediately, we stopped licensing that product to new customers because NVIDIA's ecosystem is very important to us. And we work with storage companies, of all different types, whether it's a NetApp or EMC or DDN or VAS, all these different storage companies. So we started innovating on the technology, but we worked with our ecosystem to leverage, so they can leverage these same capabilities, and we can all grow together.
An amazing story. And as well, it tells us as well the dynamics as well and the velocity, because you are in a startup now, you are in one of the biggest companies in the planet. So Erik, one of the things I want to touch, you mentioned that you are in data all your time, and you hold a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the University of San Francisco, and you've been as well enthusiasm in sports, and as well I see a golf player, and a lot of different things. So tell us a bit of your background, because one of the things that I always like to highlight is from the theory to the practice. Like you mentioned, from data science to build AI and LLMs and GPU centers, but as well, at the moment, we are actually having a question mark about the jobs and AI. So I think the background of the people building AI is particularly important for people listening to us to demystify.
If we look at NVIDIA, our team has very diverse backgrounds. You just listed a few facts about mine. If you read that my background and stopped, you probably wouldn't think, oh, hey, this is someone working on the enterprise artificial intelligence team at NVIDIA. But we have a team of various backgrounds, whether it's industry expertise, deep expertise in technology, in building these new AIs, or backgrounds generally in business. I've my entire life I've been interested in technology, and technology has been a hobby of mine. I was also very committed to playing certain sports. I played collegiate golf in college. That limited some of the things I was able to study, but I was able to study business, the emphasis in marketing and finance. That was interesting to me. When I got out of college, I thought, this is in the late 90s. We have the .com boom. And I thought, I could go into finance, but why not? You're young. Why don't you go try out a small tech company? So I did that. Little did I know, once you're in, you can't get out. So, but for me, it's been an amazing journey, seeing the evolution of how businesses leverage data and use data to power their applications and improve the services and offerings that they're able to present to their customers. And so, when it came time to join NVIDIA, initially it felt like a big change. Well, I'm going from a very data centric career to a company that builds amazing computing solutions. At the time, most businesses thought of NVIDIA as a company that helps connect monitors to computers. It was the GPU graphics company. And a lot of businesses, even though there was an immense amount of progress to use GPUs for business computing purposes, it was not widespread deployed across businesses large and small. And then I quickly realized that even my background in data, data is what powers a lot of these applications. It's the foundation for a lot of these capabilities that are now available to us today. And so, I personally focused on, tapping into that to help me get comfortable and learn this new world.
Yeah, and effectively things are changing at the velocity of light. So for people listening to us, of course, Erik leads a lot of the work as director of product marketing at NVIDIA, and he has fantastic work that you can see in blogs.nvidia.com/blog. Author Erik Pounds. You have the links in the interview. So one thing that I would like to start. So from your journey doing multitasking to startup and then right now in NVIDIA. So for people listening to us. So NVIDIA is still, of course, right now is in the mouth of the world because it became the most valuable company and it's been on the top 3 for last months at least. So tell us, how does NVIDIA stays as a company, what it stands, and what are the major things for people that know less about NVIDIA? Everyone knows because of the value, but probably not a lot of people know a lot of the things you just mentioned, but more as a company as a whole.
Well, NVIDIA is an amazing company because, one, obviously people see NVIDIA as a company producing amazing technology. They see no matter what angle you're looking at NVIDIA from, whether you are an end consumer that uses NVIDIA technology to improve their graphic design practice, or you're like my 18-year-old son who sits in his bedroom from 10 p.m. till midnight until we tell him to get off, playing the video games with his friends, leveraging all the best of NVIDIA technology, to now, obviously the leading data scientists in the world, leveraging NVIDIA technology to accelerate their pipelines, or now every business trying to figure out, how do I adopt these new generative AI capabilities to reach new levels of productivity and efficiency. NVIDIA is seen definitely as a technology powerhouse. I think what a lot of people don't know about NVIDIA is that we operate. I came out of a decade of working in a few different startups. We operate like the world's largest startup. We are, for the amount of work that NVIDIA does, we're actually a fairly small team or a fairly flat organization. Jensen has built an amazing organization. Our efficiency levels are really high. So, even as we grow, when we come to work and we work as a team, we all work together and we get a lot done. And that's a fun culture. That's a fun culture to work in. It also allows us to take on new things fairly quickly. We can pivot fast. We can fail fast. We learn as we go, and we keep on iterating. So if you look at our charter in my group at NVIDIA to help enterprises adopt accelerated computing and generative AI, this was an effort that was started about 5 years ago, and to help take a lot of the amazing work that NVIDIA has done with accelerated computing and accelerated software libraries across many different domains, and help more and more enterprises use that in their applications. And amazing progress has happened, in the last 5 years, but we're just getting going.
So let's touch what you just mentioned, that you guys, and effectively from a numbers perspective, being in mind that you are one of the most valuable companies in the planet, you have the less number of employees. So explain us a bit of that startup mode that your founder created, and it's working effectively as a masterclass in management and as well in efficiency.
I can speak to some of my personal experiences. I started early in my career at a small company, and we were acquired by a big company. Then I worked for a few big companies before I went back into startups. And one of the things that is common across big companies is, one, large organizational structures, a lot of layers, from individual contributors to middle managers to directors to VPs to senior VPs to corporate VPs, all the way up, right? And often that organizational structure dictates how the business runs. At NVIDIA, we operate as a flat, or the organizational structure doesn't dictate how we operate. The mission at hand dictates how we operate. So one example of that is that a lot of big companies, there's structure and processes in place that you have to go through to get anything approved to start a new project or get funding for a project. At NVIDIA, we don't have that. We work very flat. As a team, if we decide to do something, we do it, and it's an amazing thing. Jensen is a spectacular leader. He is involved in all of the projects that we work on. So we have this level of intimacy and ability to speed and ability to react that a lot of companies just traditionally don't have, just by the way that they're designed and structured.
Well, that's really impressive. But I have to ask, sorry, I want to dip a bit on that, because I saw a lot of interviews. How is that happening with the capacity? And one of the things that I want to touch is you guys have partnerships with, I never saw probably a corporation with so much partnerships as yours. So probably how that element of startup, the capacity to be independent, and the partnerships, if you can touch these three things.
No doubt we are growing. The team is growing in size, and even just in the 4.5 years that I've been at the company, we've grown a decent amount. I don't think quite double, but it's getting there. But we do it very efficiently, and when we do take on new things and we change our priorities, we all participate in that. So sometimes teams are siloed in groups, and they have a certain function, and if the priority leaves that function, then you have to make changes. We reprioritize. We just all rally around the what are the top priority items, and if there's things that we have to learn that are new, like for me personally, in the past 2 or 3 years, I've really had to spend a lot of time learning a lot of some of the core technologies that are powering this generative AI wave, because it's not in my last decade background of knowledge of the things I was working on. That's okay. We all have the ability to learn and adapt, and we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that at NVIDIA.
I think everyone has to continue learning, especially the velocity of things. So
you mentioned and how important that is. And it does relate to the kind of the size and efficiency, of NVIDIA. I mean, we do whatever we can to embrace our ecosystem and our partners, and we try and do it in a way that it's mutual. Where they embrace us as well. And that really extends NVIDIA far out into the market, where with some companies you instinctively may want to build all of that in house, but when you work that way with your partners and your ecosystem, that gives you a lot of reach that doesn't necessarily require a lot more headcount in the company. So I think that's one of the core reasons for that.
I want to touch a bit of the products. Okay, you start initially doing a lot of different things, and I know that there's a lot of flexibility in terms of building, of course, the biggest AI chips in the planet, but as well a lot of other products that are complementary. So can you guide us a bit, especially your area of business and your area of product, some of the products that you guys are doing, which it's a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think one way to understand how NVIDIA thinks about products, and also how you can leverage NVIDIA products, is that first and foremost, NVIDIA is focused on accelerated computing, especially in business, taking some tasks, computing tasks that are common, and accelerating those to make them more efficient and drive costs down. Accelerated computing is a full stack challenge. So some out there in the industry see NVIDIA as a semiconductor company, or they bucket us that way. Well, the semiconductor, or the chip, is just the bottom layer of the stack. It's a very important layer of the stack, but it's the bottom layer of the stack. And what sits above that are acceleration libraries to take advantage of that amazing computing power. And then what sits above that are domain-specific software to apply that accelerated computing across various industry applications. And then as you go further up the stack, you eventually end up getting to a specific application that takes advantage of everything that is below it. And you do see NVIDIA climbing up the stack. As we climb up the stack, we ensure that it's integrated with and is compatible with all our partners. But we're making a lot of investments to make accelerated computing easier to use. For example, we announced earlier in the year that for around generative AI, we announced a suite of microservices to be able to do things like curate data, or customize a large language model, or evaluate that model, or guardrail that model. We have those capabilities further down the stack, but they're in more advanced libraries that require additional expertise. A lot of application developers, if they could just code to a simple API, their life gets a lot easier. And so we're trying to make engaging this full NVIDIA stack, that simple, where you can just code to a very easy to use API. So then when you look at our products, and we keep our platform as open as possible, so you can engage NVIDIA at any layer of that stack. As you can see, some of our partners, some of our customers are the leaders in AI. Some of them engage very low in the stack because they have teams that have those capabilities to do that. But as you look at, companies like, let's say you're a regional bank. Well, if you're a regional bank, you may not have 150 expert AI developers to build your own solution from scratch. So you need to engage a bit further up the stack. So for them, we have easy to use APIs that allow them to do some of these very, very powerful tasks. So you can engage in NVIDIA, anywhere. I know you mentioned some of the things that we're working on. One of those is NVIDIA AI Enterprise, which is you can think of NVIDIA AI Enterprise as a suite of software that's like the operating system of AI, that includes all the essential software you need to manage, to run and manage this kind of end-to-end pipeline of AI, all the way from the start where you curate your data to being able to run and scale these models in production. And that's our only a licensed software product. So if you're a subscriber to NVIDIA AI Enterprise, you get all of NVIDIA's capabilities in the areas of AI and data science.
So this is one of the biggest things. Of course, every company in the world will have to work on these systems and integrate these systems. And of course, the challenge is, like I said, when we talk about generative AI, we talk about 2 years of history. And it seems like a world with all the changes, but it's very small time. So from your experience dealing with this big, like you mentioned, a bank as a case study, I'm sure there's probably a government or another partner. How do you deal with the complexity of, first of all, of course, everyone is using some kind of AI because I think the phones are democratizing and probably brought that, but a bit of from an enterprise perspective. And of course, as we saw recently, security is a key thing. As you saw, we had a massive hostage just recently. So how you deal with, first of all, explaining the complexity of these tools in a simple way, and second, making them feel secure about the data, about the security.
No doubt. I think when it comes to making the complexity simple, especially when as more and more businesses and organizations of every shape and size start adopting this technology, you definitely have to make it easier to use and more approachable. That does sometimes mean that it's more opinionated. So, as you go up the stack, there'll be a little, maybe a little less functionality, a little less flexibility, but much easier to use and adopt. So we are definitely focused on that as we write these cloud-like APIs to enable everyone to adopt these capabilities. Now, as you kind of unfold that envelope and you look at all the complexity that comes into that, I mean, just NVIDIA AI Enterprise, this software suite alone, is comprised of over 4,000 open source packages. So imagine doing security analysis on all 4,000 of those packages to kind of understand and surface like these CVEs, these common vulnerabilities and exposures for each of them, or even dealing with the dependencies across these open source packages to ensure that they're all working together at every point in time. There are organizations out there that do take this on themselves and they productize their own stack, and they take open source software and they build it and test it and integrate themselves and manage it. That is a lot of work. Most businesses and organizations will not be able to do that. And this is why, for example, instead of using only open, powerful data science libraries, some companies will subscribe to Databricks, or why you can build your own operating system using Fedora, but instead you subscribe to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. There's a reason for that, because a lot of these enterprises, when they don't have the resources, they want to focus on higher value tasks, and they want to be able to leverage the work of the rest of the community or a vendor that they trust to assemble this for them. And so NVIDIA AI Enterprise is essentially that for the essential AI software. And then you can build your domain specific or business specific purpose applications on top of that.
So let's give if you could bring a case study, because like you
Sure.
touched a lot of different things. One case study, for instance, in government, and one case study in banking, because I like to demystify this. And for instance, last week or a couple of weeks ago, there was a massive, just depends on when you see an interview, but all the things are touched, but there's AI level, there's multiple layers. And what I'm interested to talk here is demystify this for people to use it properly in the best way.
With regards to governments and sovereign nations, that is important today is that a lot of these foundation models, they're amazing. These foundation models are trained on essentially the knowledge of the world, the knowledge of the internet, and vast general purpose knowledge and skills. Sometimes they don't have the knowledge of your community or your specific nation. There's a lot of work going on right now to either start from scratch and build their own model, but more and more different organizations are taking foundation models and customizing them for their needs. I think a good example of that is KT, or formerly Korea Telecom, being able to build a model to be just the absolute best at understanding the Korean language and the culture that is around them. You're starting to see this type of work happen across almost every nation, as each community needs their own AI. I mean, if you're going to use AI to further enhance your community and society, it needs to be grounded and based on on your history, on your culture, on your language, so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of training and customization work being done in those areas. Another example that I would give you which is across pretty much every industry, is one of the killer applications, and that is in customer service and in supplying with not just your customers, but also everyone who's helping your customers with an assistant or a chatbot to provide better and faster customer service. One company that we've been working closely with is a company called Amdocs. Many may not know them, but they provide a lot of the back end and application capabilities to telecommunication providers to provide assistance to their customers. So imagine if you have a question about what's on your phone bill. We all know how that works today. You have to log into your account and try and figure it out yourself. But if you want to talk to somebody, you usually call some 1-800 number. You're stuck on a phone tree. You get run around a little bit. Sometimes you're even talking to a kind of a classic automated agent, and it gets frustrating. If you could talk to an AI that has a human-like interface, you wouldn't have to call 1-800 anything. You can maybe just go log into your account, go on their website, and start talking to somebody, and get your question answered as quickly as possible. And that could apply across every industry. And so those are a few examples of some of the things that we're seeing, even when working with our partners. Like, we made an announcement recently with SAP, and SAP has built a copilot they call Joule, and Joule is available across all of their kind of platforms, available to their developers, just to provide quick help and assistance in using your applications that run in SAP. That's one of the largest application platforms available today. So there's those are a few of some of the applications that we're seeing right now that businesses are starting with first.
So one of the things that you touched, the large language models and, for instance, the partnership with the SAP. So let's look at one element here that I think is very important. So one of your last articles is large language models get smarter with enterprise data. So at the moment we have, and for people listening to us, of course, my audience is quite technical, but not everyone can go so deep. But so we have, in one end, there's artificial intelligence, generative AI, and this based, of course, in large language models. And we have like the major global large language models. And then every company has their own data. So what we're talking right now is that we take this data, transform it in a medium language model, and then use it to start interacting with customers' data and business and get intelligence. So one of the challenges that we know about this is, of course, hallucinations and different things. The second one is, of course, scaling the data and the capacity. For instance, if you look at creating a data center for a government, we can have costs of around billions of dollars, which most of them cannot afford. So a lot of this software they're doing is precisely putting this to enhance productivity and as well enhance different solutions. So let's look at how do you see large language models, bearing in mind that you're building the foundations to make sure that they work. and how we can actually get really smarter with this in a very practical way. You mentioned software, but I would like to do so. For instance, an example, and actually there was a question that was asked to your CEO, was will any government will have to have their large language models? Let's start with this one, because I think this is one that definitely everyone can understand as a citizen, as a member of a country.
Yeah, I think this, I feel applies to governments, nations, communities, societies, just as well as it applies to to businesses. Whether you're a nation or you're a business, you have information, you have knowledge that is close to you, often proprietary to you. So if you're going to deploy an AI to do work, tasks, generate new knowledge on behalf of your community, your organization, your business, it should be the most knowledgeable in you. So you can equate that to every business or organization will need their own AI. So yes, these foundation models, they're amazing in their capabilities and they have vast knowledge, but they're not intimate in you or your community or your business, because a lot of the knowledge that is embedded in the data is proprietary. It's not available to be used to train these general purpose models. So I think you could equate it to not that different in growing your team and having new employees take on different roles and capabilities. You want your employees on your team to be grounded in how your business works, your organization works, the history of your organization, and have that kind of close, intimate knowledge of what you're trying to do.
So, and for instance, coming back to, like you mentioned, how we bring these models to improve. For instance, I want to use again the model of the country, because of course one of the challenges we're facing is legacy models and data of different softwares not talking with each other. And this creates a lot of issues. And sometimes it creates as well, first of all, for instance, I give you an example. I'm not talking, but I'm working or advising a government. And I was having a meeting where they spent literally a couple of $1 billion building a software for smart cities. And at the time, they had no clue how to improve that. So this happens in a lot of big scale, and even when people are quite sophisticated. So now bear in mind the velocity of these technologies, and especially how AI is redefining all the different things. From your experience, because one of the wonderful things about NVIDIA is that you guys have been doing from gaming to governments to data centers, a lot of different things. So you actually have probably one of the biggest 360 impression of our, especially AI infrastructure is affecting everyone. But at the same time, it has to be used for implementation utility. So how do you act on this? And especially it's part of your work on the product side, how it can actually really be like some steps at least.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that's important you mentioned, which is connecting these amazing generative AI models to data, especially your proprietary data. And I think for everyone to fully grasp, I think we need to quickly replay the history of just the last few years. The eye-opening moment for all of us was when OpenAI released ChatGPT, and we all had to play with it and feel it for the first time. And it was just shocking and amazing how well it behaved. But a lot of the questions that we asked ChatGPT early on, it gave us the answer of, well, I don't know, because I was last trained on a certain specific date. Oh, that's interesting, right? So if you asked it, who the president of the United States was, it may have given you an incorrect answer, or not an incorrect answer, it would just say, I don't know, because I was last trained. And so it's like, oh, well, these models are frozen in time. They only know what they were trained on during their last training run. Well, if you look at applications for these models, whether it's a business application or a government application, it's like, well, that's not very good. We wouldn't want the members of our team to have their knowledge frozen in time. I mean, we're learning every second of the day. The conversations we're having now is going to affect maybe how we think a couple hours from now. So you always want to have up to date information and knowledge. And so over the last few years, year and a half, you've seen a lot of research gone into, well, how do we augment the knowledge of these AI models with external data? In a lot of the case, that's proprietary knowledge. So going back to maybe the fall of last year, that's why, techniques like retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, have been so hot in this space, because these are techniques now that allow you to take an amazing model, even if you customize the model, you adapt that model to the core knowledge of your business, be an expert in the domains that you operate in, maybe have skills that you need. You program that model, have skills that you need to get certain things done, but then still its knowledge is frozen in time from your last training on. But then when you augment that model with your proprietary knowledge that's embedded in your data, which is your data is a living, breathing thing, wow, now this model really becomes amazing. And technically what happens is the output of the model, the accuracy of the output of the model just goes up dramatically. So, but then it raises the concern. One of the concerns you brought up is, well, all right, how do we give this model, or these applications using this model, access to all this data? How do we control access to this data? It actually becomes somewhat of more of a classic enterprise data access challenge. Who can access the data? Who cannot access the data? I think one of the benefits that a lot of organizations and businesses have is, well, the last decade, there has been a lot of work that has gone into making data more active. So, we go back a decade, a lot of data was cold. It was, sitting on some storage system over in the corner. If you had to access it, you had to go talk to somebody, and they had to pull the data. And then now the data is more online, it's more active, it's more cloud native. So essentially, a lot of data is now an API call away. So now it just becomes, getting the access systems in place, so to ensure the right applications and the right users have access to that data. And now we have these information retrieval or pipelines that can connect these amazing large language models and other types of generative models with this data to produce amazing content, provide very valuable insights into whatever you're trying to do.
Very well put, and it's quite a big challenge still. So one of the things, of course, that NVIDIA is known is because of the path to create the most powerful GPUs in the world. So let's describe, and I know that recently NVIDIA claimed that breakthrough on path to GPU-based quantum computing. So before we go to that part, can you tell us a bit of what it is, a GPU, for people that are less knowledge, and how these GPUs impact what we've been talking here? So if you can translate this in simple ways.
The simplest way, when you look at, from traditional computing, to accelerate computing, is traditional computing is very serial. You do one task at a time, and you do those as quickly as possible. With GPU computing, it's parallel computing. So you're doing many, 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 many things in parallel at a single time. And it just, it turns out that tasks like processing a large amount of data, or training an AI model, or running that AI model in production across thousands and thousands of users, are just amazing applications for accelerated computing and parallel computing. So it's a new type of computing for many, but it has been worked on for multiple decades by some amazing innovators and a very, very, very large ecosystem. So for a lot of teams, development teams and businesses and application owners that want to take advantage of accelerated computing, it's now right at your fingertips, and it's much much easier to leverage now. Like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to make it so the important things you need to leverage are just a simple API call away through a microservice or a cloud service.
So do you want to touch about the NVIDIA Blackwell platform? Because it's, of course, probably your CEO mentioned that's probably the biggest breakthrough in AI.
I'll stay at a high level. I'm not the best expert on our platform evolution, but I will say that one amazing thing is NVIDIA is even further increasing the velocity of new platforms that are coming, like the time between our Hopper platform, which is actively being used today by many leading enterprises, or the Ampere platform below that. The cadences between platform rollouts is even further accelerating, which is just amazing. I mean, Jensen explained Blackwell as the first platform that was kind of built from the ground up for this era of generative AI, which is alone is pretty impressive. You take the Hopper platform and the H100 and H200 powered systems, or even the L40S systems, which we use a lot for running these models in production, at scale, out across many different types of data centers. The impact that Hopper's made on generative AI is tremendous. And then he explains Blackwell as the first platform built from the ground up for the era of generative AI. It's just tremendously exciting, the progress that is being made, from platform to platform. The other thing I'll say that is amazing about our platforms is that as we work on the software stacks that run on these platforms, when we write new software or put out a new accelerated library, it's compatible and works with past platforms, and it's ready to work with future platforms. So traditionally in software, software comes out, you have a compatibility list, and often that software works with the new things moving forward. It's like, okay, gosh, so if I'm going to rev my software, I'm going to adopt this new software, I've got to get all new platforms. That's not the way how it is with NVIDIA. If you adopt NVIDIA software, you build your applications on top of our platform. Our track record of forward and backwards compatibility is very, very impressive, which makes it easy to adopt these solutions as well as run them across different types of systems. If you've seen, I know we were talking earlier about, before we got on, about some of Jensen's latest talks and his keynotes. Like, you looked at the Blackwell announcement at our GTC conference earlier in the year. These systems are big. Like the system that a lot of businesses use for training, we call it NVIDIA DGX. Our partners then take that platform through this program we call NVIDIA HGX and build very similar systems. They're big, heavy systems. I think Jensen said 30,000+ parts. And they weigh, just the board alone weighs like over 70 pounds. These are big systems. These are often used to train the AI. But often when you deploy AI, you need to deploy AI close to where the user engages, close to where the data lives. Sometimes that's not in the big data center. Sometimes that may be in a server closet. Sometimes it may be at the top of a telephone pole, right? If you're a telco deploying solutions out in the field. Moving forward, it's going to be in robots. So the types of computers that are deployed in these various locations are of many different shapes and sizes. But we have one architecture. So when you build your application to run our platform, it could run on those big, huge systems, or you can deploy that same software on these smaller systems closer to the edge.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think this is kind of where we start demystify all the uses of these big super products, but as well taking down. So you touched the partnership with SAP. So I want to touch that again, because one of the things that I was particularly interested is, of course, any company, the first thing is about sales. And I like your article, actually wrote an article about that, how the SAP can use generative AI, and you mentioned the Copilot assistant, AI assistant that can be used for sales. So can you use this case studies? I think this is one of the things that everyone is right now started to use, but sometimes they use it more for entertainment than actually for business. This is actually where is the real breakthrough.
Yeah. So I mean, we're super excited about our partnership with SAP, and what they're doing is going to take amazing generative AI capabilities and make them available not only to their own developers, but to all of their platform application developers and consultants, which they have many. They have hundreds of thousands of them. And the way that they're starting is, first they're trying to make an assistant or a copilot available across their entire platform, and they call that Joule. So they're focused on things like helping software developers more easily code to their proprietary language, which is called ABAP. So instead of having to become an expert in ABAP, you can use Joule to help you write certain functions in SAP. That's going to tremendously speed up development on their platform. Or they have many consultants all across the globe to provide their consultants with a copilot or assistant. So when they're doing their work, they have a a top-notch SAP expert right next to them at all times to answer their questions is going to make them operate a whole lot more efficiently and get projects done for their clients faster. So that's an example. Another example from SAP that I think is also interesting, just to see where this is going, is they have a intelligent product recommendations a suite of software, and we actually put out a demonstration video on this using BMW as an example, and it shows a scenario where BMW is standing up a new manufacturing line, and in that manufacturing line you have a lot of products that you have to deploy, whether you have robotic arms and grippers that pick up things and move them around, and then all the infrastructure to support those amazing robotic tools. And one example that we gave is like a compressor, where, all right, I want this new tool, this new robot in my manufacturing line. It also needs a compressor. I need to add this compressor. Which compressor do I use? Usually these are projects that, imagine what happens. There is some engineer that has to do some calculations, and then they have to look at the floor plan of the factory, and there's all these things that they have to figure out. It could take weeks or months to do. But all this knowledge is available to us. We know the specifications of each project. If we have the factory, in this case, properly designed and replicated as a digital twin in a platform like NVIDIA Omniverse, you can have an AI essentially give you very intelligent recommendations of what to do. Like, oh, you're deploying this robot? Great. You need this compressor, and it will have this impact on your power. Do you have enough power budget? Good. It'll have this impact on your space. You're good. You can put it here. And then you can even visualize what the impact is going to be using something like a spatial computing device. So instead of having a team of people go spend weeks or months designing something in, all this information's at our fingertips. The AI could do it. You could put on your spatial computing goggles, and you could walk the floor of the factory, and you can visualize it. You could feel it. You could touch it. I think it's a great example of what this technology is going to allow a lot of us to do, but is allowing some companies like BMW to do today.
You touched digital twins and, of course, VR and different parts. So I know that you guys are probably the most advanced in the world in this area. So tell us a bit of some of the innovations. I know that you've been doing a lot of things in terms of using some of your chips to create better AI graphics, because at the moment we have most of the AI is mostly text and sound. So you guys are taking this to video and to interactive video. I think we're going probably to have soon more and more a bit of Star Trek and Star Wars holograms, where actually we can interact with visual representation of AI. So tell us a bit about that. You touched that in the case of BMW and different parts, but I think it's interesting as well for people listening to us.
I think the human-like interfaces into these new applications is going to be very important, because you can easily stand up a prototype chatbot by essentially just deploying a large language model, providing a text input interface in front of it, and just kind of typing away. But then all the other amazing AI models that can essentially enhance that application are tremendous and are being taken advantage of by many early adopters today. Like, for example, speech. Instead of typing, wouldn't it be great if you could just talk to it? Well, we have a suite of software we call NVIDIA Riva. It includes AI models for things like automatic speech recognition and text to speech going out, so it can translate coming in, it can return back to speech going out, even translate language to language, all in real time. So now you can have more of a natural interface into the application. That's the other part, is for us to all really enjoy using these applications, they have to be very natural. It's like if we talk to an application and it takes 60 seconds to respond, well, that's not very natural. That's not frustrating. So you need to have these kind of quick turn responses, like the conversation we're having right now. But then digital avatars, digital human interfaces is another key innovation right now, because we see this happening with a lot of fast food restaurants right now. You go to a fast food restaurant, and there's no one at the desk to talk to anymore. There's just a kiosk. And a lot of people like this because, they can operate in their own world and click, okay, I want a hamburger and some fries and a Coke and add this to my thing and pay with my Apple Watch and then 5 minutes later their food comes out and they're on their merry way. But as you interface with those types of devices, it's not super quick. You have to comb through menus and click things and wait and answer a bunch of questions. Where it's going is you'll just walk up to those kiosks and you'll just start talking to someone that is very friendly to you. Just like this, it'll just be powered by an AI, and it'll be more friendly, it'll be more efficient. So I think that's another another type of interface and technologies that are important. And by the way, we have all these models I'm talking about. They're all available to play with on NVIDIA's website. If you go to ai.nvidia.com, you can play with all of these models. So not just large language models. So while we have the latest Llama models from Meta there, we also have some of the latest models for, speech and for digital human and some of these other amazing things. These are all models you can use to build and construct kind of a modern application. And then you mentioned, the Omniverse. So in Omniverse, it connects the physical world to AI, physical world to a virtual world, all in real time. So anything that you're doing that is a simple way to think about it is anything that you're doing that is physical. If you have a real-time digital representation, in that digital representation is where you can be doing a lot of development and testing and so on and so forth. So what you're doing in the real world can just keep doing what it's doing. You can develop in a virtual world and then deploy. You can iterate, you can test, you can try new things out. Some things work, some things don't work. Instead of doing that in a physical world and sometimes for your business or your application taking additional risk, you can do that in a virtual world.
So one of the big things that you guys are working is in the partnership. Of course, you have a lot of partners, but it's the partnership with Facebook and as well, or Meta, and the AI Foundry that is building the custom Llama 3.1 generative AI models. So this is a big breakthrough for people listening to us because it's an open source model, which most of them are not open source. And second, because it allows potential to build synthetic data. Erik, if you could highlight, and I know that
the announcement today was really exciting. Meta, who develops the Llama large language models, released a new set of Llama models, both in an 8 billion parameter model, smaller models, 70 billion parameter models, and now 405 billion parameter model. This new 405 billion parameter model, it's open. It can generate data that then you can own and leverage in a commercial type application. And one of the new interesting, even while this model is really powerful, you can use this model as it is and customize the model. But one of the new interesting applications is for synthetic data generation. So as you're building a custom model, you can take your proprietary data and use that proprietary data to alter the model, to have the knowledge of your domain or the knowledge of your business, or you can even train it to do certain skills. In a lot of scenarios, you may not have enough data to customize the model in the way that you need to. So one way to do that is you actually augment your proprietary knowledge with synthetically generated data about your domain. So you can feed the model some information, some instructions, and it can generate net new data. So now you have a larger data set to train and customize that model with. So it's another interesting evolution in our journey to build more capable generative AI models. So one thing we did alongside this announcement for Meta is we announced the NVIDIA AI Foundry. And the NVIDIA Foundry gives you a service that you could use to take your proprietary data, your knowledge, you can bring that into the Foundry, and you can use the Foundry to customize these powerful models like Llama. So you can use the Foundry to curate your data, generate new synthetic data. Start with a foundation model like Llama 3.1, customize that model using that data. We have evaluation tools as well, so then you can evaluate that model across whether it's an industry benchmark or across benchmarks that are specific to your application. So you ensure that, yes, we're building the best possible model. And then you can guardrail that model so the model behaves in the way that you need it to do. It doesn't go kind of off the rails. And then you can output that custom model out of the Foundry. And we output models out of the Foundry in a stack that we call NVIDIA NIM. And NVIDIA NIM takes the model, takes an optimized runtime, and takes kind of an easy-to-use API that we were talking about earlier, and wraps it all up into a container that you can deploy anywhere in the world, in the cloud, at the edge, in a device, on a workstation, so on and so forth. So now it makes building custom generative AI and deploying custom generative AI and using it a whole lot easier.
Wow. Congratulations, and it's a great one for people listening to us. Synthetic data is the information that is artificially generated rather than produced by real-world events and typically created using algorithms. But this makes a big breakthrough in terms of technology. One last question here that I think it's a key one. So we talk about a lot of the fantastic developments and features that you guys are building, and thank you for a very technical, detailed, and simple explanation. So we're going through a lot of biggest challenge for enterprise and actually for society in general when it comes to adopting AI technologies. We touched some of the things, but so from your experience dealing with major organizations worldwide, how can we take the fear and make the excitement that you have, and I share the same with you, but as well in a very responsible way?
You know, for businesses, organizations, governments, nations, I mean, one way to take away some of the fear and uncertainty is just to get going. If you're not already engaged in learning about these new technologies and using these new capabilities, I'd say just jump in and start doing that. And it's I think you'll learn some tremendous advantages that come from these. Yes, there's going to be new challenges, but they're in line with some of the challenges that we've had in the past in having to, for example, as we adopted cloud computing. It's like, oh no, I'm going to put all my data in the cloud. I'm going to put my information into a shared space. How am I going to be able to secure that? We figured out ways pretty quickly on how to secure that data or application access as we've gone past the days of everything's in the four walls of the business. Some of us still have to use VPNs and things like this to gain access to certain things, but a lot of these applications that we use today are behind, a simple authentication mechanism, and we can access that, everywhere in the world. That obviously was a scary transition when those types of applications were rolling out. I'd say, it's the same for AI. If you jump in 2 feet first and you start embracing these capabilities, then you'll learn what the things are that you need to do to best develop, deploy, scale, and secure these new, amazing, powerful applications, and they will, they'll benefit your business tremendously. So that's kind of my advice. Instead of looking at it from the outside, I would, jump into the shallow end 2 feet first and get started. This is why I mentioned it just a minute ago. This is why we stood up this new site earlier in the year, ai.nvidia.com, to give our developers easy access to these really powerful AI models running on NVIDIA accelerated computing. So it's free to use, and they're models of all different shapes and sizes. A lot of people are familiar because they're using ChatGPT and other tools, interacting with a large language model, but we have vision models there. Like you can go create an image based on a model trained on Getty Images data. There's even biology-based models if you want to work with molecules and proteins. And there's a visual aspect to that as well. So it gives you a sense of the power visualization also, in generative AI. So like that's, if you want to learn about NVIDIA and feel NVIDIA, that's a great place to go and start.
Well, thank you so much, Erik. I have much more questions, but I think in the sum of 1 hour, there's a lot of stuff here. We'll put all the links for what you mentioned. Thank you so much as well for your detailed passion and as well explanation, because I think the challenge, like you said, is how we step in and educate ourselves, because of course there's no way we can get out of this. But as well, I think one highlight that I have from the interview is what you said, that you're not probably expecting yourself to see in the position like you are now. So that means a lot of new jobs will be created, and we can reusing our skills in much more exciting ways. Thank you so much. I don't know if you want to highlight just some links, or you touch, for instance, the AI link, at least coming from you is better, but just to wrap up, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dinis. It was a pleasure being with you, and thanks for having me. And yeah, it's an exciting new time that we're all in.
Thank you, Erik. It's been an honor.